A Guten Erev Shabbos. This week's parsha discusses the encounter between Yaakov and Esav. At one point, the pasuk says, "Vayivasar Yaakov levadoi." Yaakov remained alone on one side of the river. He encountered the angel of Esav. They got into a struggle, and Yaakov ultimately prevailed. This idea of Yaakov being alone, this image, brings to mind the feeling of isolation, alienation, and loneliness that many Yidden, many Jews are currently feeling. I'd like to share a personal story that will help us understand that in truth, we are never alone. My wife's great-grandfather, Reb Michal Katzenellenbogen, lived in the former Soviet Union. He lived a life of Mesiras Nefesh, committed to spreading Torah and Yiddishkeit. In 1937, immediately after Simchas Torah, he was arrested and ultimately killed. The family didn't know the date when he was killed, so they just chose any date to say Kaddish. Around 20 years ago, I was in New York for a simcha, and I came home to my in-laws' house, and I found my grandfather sitting on the porch and crying. He had just received an official document from the Russian government detailing everything that had happened with his father. Amongst the things that were written there was that there was a tribunal of 3 judges near Leningrad, and on November 15th, 1937, he was condemned and shot. They buried him in a mass grave in a neighborhood near Petersburg. My wife, who was on the porch, said to me, "Look it up. When is that date? November 15th, 1937. I quickly did a search, and then my wife began to cry when she noticed that the date was the 15th of Kislev, because the 15th of Kislev is the day that our son Yankel was born. So you see, if you were a betting man and you observed this scene of these mighty KGB agents killing this frail Jew, and you were asked, who will be around in 90 years? Someone would have said, for sure, the mighty KGB, the Communist Party of Russia. But in truth, fast forward 90-some years, zoom out, and you see there, Baruch Hashem, Reb Michal's children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren are thriving and continue to spread Yiddishkeit world over. This past week, our son Yankel gave birth to a son. Hashem should help that this child should continue in the ways of his grandparents and great-grandparents all the way back to Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and to continue to spread Yiddishkeit and to communicate to everyone around that we are never alone. We have each other. We're connected to the past. We're connected to the future. We're connected to Hashem, who the pasuk says, "V'niskav Hashem levadoi." Hashem will be exalted alone. May we merit this immediately with the coming of Mashiach.
And don't you know